You have Iceberg Slim KD shooting trades from the suburbs. James Harden, hopefully he's going to return to the form that he had when he first got to the Nets, because he was putting up triple-doubles and balling out of control. And Kyrie Irving, between the legs, behind the back on Christmas Day. Ooh, that's going to be nasty. And then on the other side, you got LeBron James, the king, after his team just got eliminated in the first round. And Anthony Davis, who was injured in the playoffs. And they added Russell Westbrook. If you guys thought Russell Westbrook was intense when he played for other teams, imagine how he's going to be in front of his family and friends, literally, on Christmas Day. Like, the intensity that this man is gonna play with is gonna be crazy. And how about the fact, we gotta talk about the past. Let's talk about the past, okay? Let's talk about the past. Didn't LeBron used to play with Kyrie, and Kyrie decided for whatever reason he wanted to play with LeBron?
Oh no, he asked for a trade.
Didn't KD once play with Russ?
Yes.
Right, and didn't KD once play with Russ, and he decided to leave and join the Golden State Warriors?
Partly because of Russ.
Didn't Russ and James Harden play together in Houston?
I love the petty.
For a short period of time?
I love the petty.
Each of these guys are gonna be on the big stage. This is a supersized version of what reminded me of Shaq's return to LA with the young stud Dwayne Wade to play against the Black Mamba, the late, great Kobe Bryant. I remember the tension. It was in the air. They weren't slapping high fives before the game. This is gonna be terrific for the NBA.
This is gonna be such a huge game because you think about those storylines, like, don't forget, Russ and KD do not always see eye to eye. Remember that all-star game? They're all kind of going back and forth. And Kyrie straight up asked for a trade. Kyrie Irving was like, I don't want to play with LeBron James anymore. Please get me off this basketball team. This is going to be so much fun. And let's not sleep on the environment, Jalen Rose. I know you know the Staples Center well. I know you've been in there. You've seen the front rows. You've seen all the celebrities. And that Christmas Day game in particular is always such a big ticket. The energy in that building is going to be so big. But let me just be negative Jacoby for a second. Just one second. I need everybody healthy. I need everybody healthy. Anthony Davis, I don't care if you don't play until this game. Like, I need everybody healthy. I need all hands on deck for this one. And we always talk about the big three, but Blake Griffin's gonna be in the building. Carmelo Anthony's gonna be in the building. Like, I'm thinking there's probably like 9 Hall of Famers that are going to be in the building, on the court, in uniform, playing basketball against each other. This is like a crazy, crazy game and a great, look at the whole slate, Jalen.
Just outstanding. And by the way, don't sleep on the defending champion Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis playing against the Celtics, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Hopefully, we get to see the Splash Brothers play against Chris Paul and Devin Booker. Like, so many great matchups, so much great talent. I can't wait to Christmas Day.
I can't wait either. You know what? I'm going to the Knicks game. We're going to get out the house. We're going to open up the presents. I'm going to say, everybody put down your toys, take off your pajamas. We're going to Madison Square Garden. Jalen Rose.
Christmas time in Hollis, Queens. Mom cooking chicken and collard greens.
Everybody hates the new enforcement of the taunting rules in the NFL. Every single person hates it except for one. And we found the one person that supports the new taunting rules, and that is John Mara, owner of the Giants. Here he is.
I mean, that's something we discuss every year in the competition committee. We get kind of sick and tired of the taunting that does go on from time to time on the field. We've tried to balance the sportsmanship with allowing the players to have fun, and there's always a fine line there, but none of us like to see that, and it's just a question of whether you can have rules that can be enforced and without taking the fun out of the game too. But nobody wants to see a player taunting another player. I know I certainly don't, and I think the rest of the members of the competition committee feel the same way too.
We found the one guy, Jalen. We found the one guy who likes the new taunting rules.
So here's what I'll say to the New York Giants, their fans and their team and their organization. This is poor marketing and branding 101. Now what's gonna happen when they're big-time free agents and they're looking to sign with the team, right? These are the type of things that players talk about, David Jacoby. Don't be that guy that feeds the no fun league narrative. Like the things that we just saw Tyreek Hill do and some of these great athletes do when they're performing on the field or on the basketball court. Newsflash, this is entertainment. You know this is entertainment, right? It just so happened that they're keeping score. Like Terrell Owens can go to the star anytime he wants. The problem is he's gonna have to pay the consequences from the opponent. That's how trash talk works. That's how taunting works. You can say whatever you want to say. You can do whatever you want to do. And of course, I'm all for sportsmanship. I know kids are watching, right? But I know adults are playing. And I know you gotta keep your hoodie on and your boots laced when you go baseline and you dunk. You know what I'm saying? You gotta show that fire, that emotion, that intensity. Don't fans so many times say they want the athletes to care as much as they do? I guarantee you, the bettors don't mind because they like to see the players invested. So this is just a poor soundbite representing the New York Giants and the competition committee.
Absolutely. I am terrified of the first time a mild taunt turns into a 15-yard penalty that changes a game. It's going to happen. It's probably going to happen week one. I'm predicting week one there will be a 15-yard taunting penalty that dramatically shifts the flow of a game, and I just don't want to see it. We all know the line. We all know the line, and what they've called, even in this preseason, did not cross that line. Jalen, we have some other big news in the NFL. One of our favorite players in the entire league, Jamal Adams, who was hidden away on the New York Jets and no one was paying attention to him, ended up on the Seahawks and now signed a 4-year, $72 million deal. Jalen, just how impactful is Jamal Adams on defense?
Here comes the boom. Here comes the boom. Here comes the boom. It's not the Legion of Doom, right? But at least it reminds me of the hard hitters like Cam Chancellor and Earl Thomas when he was there. And you know how much I love the D-back position. I just remember playing Madden, and it recalls me some of my favorite nicknames, like Carnell Camp Crystal Lake was one of my guys who was really physical. And rest in peace to Sean Taylor. When I see Jamal Adams play in a lot of ways, that's who he reminds me of. And usually a guy that's covering 15, 20 yards away from the quarterback isn't the same guy that has the physicality to get up on the line of scrimmage, make tackles on running backs, make sacks on quarterbacks, and be a physically dominant player that's not necessarily an offensive player, right? There are few of those guys in the league. Aaron Donald comes to mind. Jalen Ramsey comes to mind. Tyrann Mathieu comes to mind. This guy actually is at a discount. When you got those number of sacks and you up there with those names, when you get a chance, look at how much money those guys in front of him make. And I know they play a different position, but it just shows his physicality and the kind of impact he has on the football field.
We spend so much time in the media talking about quarterbacks, but there are special players like Jamal Adams that impact the game on the other side of the ball. He is one of the handful of players that changes the game while he is playing defense, and I'm so glad he got out of the New York Jets because I live in New York. I got some Jet fan friends, so I would end up watching these games, and he was impacting the game, but instead of losing by 21, they would lose by 14, so no one paid attention. But now he's in a marquee team getting the money and the attention that he deserves. He's one of the most impactful players wearing pads in the NFL. Jalen Rose, it is a special. Coming to you live above the Heineken River Deck here at the Seaport, New York City. Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby. Jalen, the marathon continues. We are part of the Fantasy Football Marathon right now. Make sure you download the ESPN Fantasy app. You can draft, manage your team from anywhere just using your phone and the ESPN Fantasy app. And we are here to help you before you draft. We're going to start by giving you some advice for your draft. And Jalen Rose, you fall victim to your own advice all the time. What is your number one piece of advice for people when they draft? Because I've seen your team every year, and you make the same mistake every year.
I don't have a home phone number. I live on the road. And here's the number one thing you should not do. You see over my left shoulder, there's a helmet. It's the Detroit Lions, my favorite team. Here's what you should not do. Look at your team at the end of the fantasy draft, and it's littered with players that play for your favorite team. Don't do
You
that.
do this every year.
Don't do
You
that.
do this every year.
Each week, I'm watching my team and I'm watching my fantasy team. You don't want those problems. You do not want those problems. A couple of teams, you may want them, like the Kansas City Chiefs come to mind, but that's it. That's it.
We're going to get up, and on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap
Especially-
off.
Especially when your team is coached by that
no.
guy who's going to be biting kneecaps. Jalen Rose, my number one piece of advice is not everyone gets to pick number one, number two, number three. If you are mid to late first round, don't be afraid to not pick a running back. There are skilled position players out there like Kelsey, Hill, Adams, Diggs. There are plenty of skilled position players that aren't running backs that will get you that same level of production. If I'm picking 6th or 7th or 8th, I'm most likely not picking a running back in the first round. I'm going to get one of these other players that puts up huge numbers. And Jalen, there's something else about fantasy, which you're a great analyst and a great thinker about the athlete's life. And you have some advice about players that you should pick that are in a contract year. Explain yourself on that one.
There's a different level of discipline a human being in a contract year is gonna have because you're trying to make sure you get paid. So therefore, you're in the playbook more, you're in the meetings early, you're staying late, you're running your routes fast as possible, you're doing everything you can to make sure you don't fumble the bag. And look at Devontae Adams. He's in a contract year, right? He won't be with the Packers next year. Allen Robinson, he's gonna be playing with Justin Fields, who they just took in the first round. He wanna make sure he continues to put up his numbers and be their productive wide receiver and make sure he gets paid. These are the players you look to invest in. The ones that are gonna make sure that they're invested in themselves during their contract year.
When you said that on the conference call, I was jealous. It's such a good point. It really is, Jalen, because you always get inside the mind of the athlete. And if you're Allen Robinson or Devontae Adams, you want to show up and show out to get that money next season on the open market. We always say we give the people what they want here on Jalen Jacoby, and part of that is listening to our audience. So we reached out to you and asked you what you wanted to know from us about fantasy football, which you can play, of course, on the ESPN Fantasy app. And here is the first question from Jay Fells, 021 on Instagram, says, who are the top 3 skilled players that look like Jacoby? You know what? I'm going to take it even further and give you 4. Obviously, we have McCaffrey, who's the number 1 rated fantasy player. He has 28 games in his career of 20-plus points. 3 years in a row, he played all 16 games. Last year, obviously, he was banged up. He's won. Kelsey, we all know about. 5 straight seasons of 1,000 yards. And then we have George Kittle. You can't tackle George Kittle. George Kittle averages 8 yards after catch since 2018. Think about that. 8 yards after the catch since 2018. And of course, you know I'm a card-carrying member of the Bills Mafia. I'm not quite the capo, but I'm an underboss of the Bills Mafia, and I love the Bills, and I have something to tell you about Josh Allen, the quarterback of the Bills. Do you think in the past 2 seasons that Lamar Jackson has ran for more touchdowns or Josh Allen? Guess what? Josh Allen. Do you think Kyler Murray has ran for more touchdowns than Josh Allen? Josh Allen the last 2 seasons has ran for more touchdowns than any other quarterback in the league.
I like where you're going, sir.
He does it through the air.
Doing, my brother,
he does it on the ground. I love Josh Allen as a fantasy pick. I love him. He's going to be my quarterback. I'm going to draft him way too early. I'm not going to regret it. Oh, Jalen, I'm so excited about this fantasy season. Let's take the next question. One comes from Infinity Quest. Jalen, for you, soft move or boss move, picking up players you don't need so your opponents don't get them.
This is corny, cheesy, a soft move. Run your race. Pick your team. Don't be looking, keep your blinders on. Don't be trying to draft somebody just because someone else in the league might take that person. Build your roster. This is definitely a soft move for people who try to do this.
Final question we have is from Bloomington to Boogie. Who of Jalen and Jacoby will have a better fantasy season this year? You know what? It's going to be Jalen, because Jalen plays in a $10,000 league. He cares more than I do.
True. No doubt about it. I'm already studying. And a couple of things you just said. Josh Allen is a football player that plays quarterback. I like that about him. And Travis Kelce, he's going to always get his numbers, and you know how much I like him.
You got to grow the beard out, though.
But he might not have the kind of productivity when he's not invited to the barbecue once he shaved his beard. So I'm watching for that. I'm watching for that undercurrent.
Make sure you sign up and play ESPN Fantasy Football. Download the app to your phone. And we have more fantasy for you as the Fantasy Football Marathon continues here on Jalen and Jacoby. Back to Jalen and Jacoby, and the Fantasy Football Marathon continues. Jalen Rose, in the Jalen and Jacoby official fantasy league, you have lost back-to-back title games to our producer, Demetrius. What is it going to take, Jalen Rose? Are you finally going to take the gold instead of the silver medal in the Jalen and Jacoby official league?
Well, I won the championship, and then I came in second twice, kind of like at the University of Michigan, but still made history. And I'm going to do it this year, too, as I take down the entire J&J team. But I have to say this to everybody out there loving and playing fantasy football. Number one, no stupid tattoos. Like, that's played out. That's played out. And you got to have a great commissioner. You got to have a great commissioner. We got one, Adam Stalker, in my league. You got to have even and fair trades. Don't play all year and not do trades.
You got to do trades. And another thing is no auto drafting. No auto drafting. Find the time to draft your own team. You cannot be on auto draft, slowing down the whole process and ruining the experience for everyone.
Judging you.
The fantasy marathon continues on ESPN. We'll be back tomorrow on ESPN at 2 p.m.